Yeah. Only speaking facts, I'm known to keep it real. I ain't worried about your feelings when I'm in the field. They be watching what I do from my highlight reel. I'm just running to the paper, fuck how you feel. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. Shout out to the crew and they get real. Find me with the crew, nigga, real.
What is up, everybody? It is RDL, the Real Deal Podcast. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Trav.
What's going on, guys?
And my semi-beautiful co-host, Bruce.
What's going on? What's going on? Drinking the pain away.
Drinking the pain away. Listen, it was rough in some ends. It was fun in some ends. And it was just damn right sad in other ends.
Yeah.
How did your fantasy teams this week, fellas?
Oh, I'll start. I'm in 8 leagues, like I said. I think I went 2-6. I went 2-6 this week. A lot of J.K. Dobbins on my fantasy teams. Clearly, he's down. A lot of Garrett Wilson, and he's down, but for different reasons right now.
Right.
So, pretty rough week 1 for me, but we're gonna get in the lab and figure something out.
That's crazy,
And
man.
I got 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 wins on my
Okay.
teams. Best ball wasn't so good. I got killed on that one, but for the most part, not a bad week for me. Week 1 was okay. It was all right. Not no
Well,
J.K. Dobbins. No, I didn't have many injuries. How about you, Kevin?
I'm glad to hear that you guys had a great week 1, for some of you at least. Me, I think I've put up the lowest points I've ever put up in fantasy in my 13 years of doing it. It hurt my soul, and I didn't really lose anybody to injury besides Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp that were already out to injury. I try to assess, I try to do my backups and get everything correctly. I still put up a whopping, I think, like 60 points. It was sad. Talking about Burrow, Godwin, Kirk.
Yep.
It was just bad. Only one player on all my fantasy team got a touchdown. That was Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
It was rough.
At least.
It was rough. It was very, very, very rough. It hurt me. It hurt my soul. Speaking about hurt people, Trav, how's the injury report looking?
Brutal. We'll start with the one that we already touched on a little bit. J.K. Dobbins out for the season with an Achilles. You feel bad for the kid. So many injuries throughout his young career, and now he's gone for the season before it even begins. Did get you a touchdown and 11.7 points, though, so
Okay.
hopefully it was enough to contribute to a winning team for you. We also have Austin Eckler on the injury report with an ankle. The Chargers are saying that it's up in the air if he'll practice on Wednesday, but they're just talking about practice status, so hopefully he's good to go in time for the game on Sunday. Aaron Jones, if you saw on that long touchdown catch that he had, or a run, I can't remember, but he ended up tweaking his hamstring, so they're going to check him out this week. So if you have A.J. Dillon, bump him up a little bit. Christian Watson, also with the hamstring, he's saying that he's not quite feeling ready enough to go for week 2 yet. They'll give it a try, but I think you should keep preparing to have Christian Watson out of your lineups. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver on the Raiders, got absolutely rocked and is in the concussion protocol, so we'll see if he gets cleared enough in time for week 2. Greg Dulcich with a hamstring injury, he's projected to miss multiple weeks with the Denver Broncos, so plan accordingly if that was a tight end streaming option for you. Starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson, hurt his knee and ankle on a play in the red zone where they were down 10 and he was diving, trying to make a play, running the ball. Head coach Shane Steichen said that it's a minor injury and that he avoided anything serious. So hopefully he's back out there to give Michael Pittman another good game like he gave him week 1 against the Jags. We also got Kenny Gainwell with a rib injury, and that one's tricky because the Eagles play on Thursday against the Minnesota Vikings. So keep an eye on that one. This might finally be where the DeAndre Swift managers get to shrug their shoulders a little bit and say, I told you so. So we'll see what goes on there. And then our last two are from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Deontay Johnson with a hamstring, expected to miss some weeks. And Pat Freiermuth with the chest. They're saying that it's not that significant, but they'll monitor his status throughout the practice week. Oh, and I almost forgot the big dog.
It's not that you forgot about it. You want to forget.
I want to forget about it. If I didn't see this 2 on my shoulder right here, because, you know, I'm wearing my Zach Wilson jersey because of what happened last night. The big dog, Aaron Rodgers, tore his Achilles, done for the season. pain. All we know is pain. It sucks. It changes the fantasy outlook for the entire Jets offense, specifically Garrett Wilson, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But that one is a bummer for football fans, for Jet fans, fantasy players. That one just sucks to see.
I mean, you
It
might as
hurts.
well, might as well talk about it because that probably has the most fantasy implications in anybody's roster as far as their picks and draft picks went. A lot of people rode Aaron Rodgers as their starting QB.
Yeah.
You got, I mean, right now, everybody's up in the air, right? What's that offense going to look like? I mean, Brees Hall came out like Brees Hall does.
Man,
Nobody expected.
coming off the
Yeah.
ACL, he looked great. He really did.
He almost got 100-yarder, man. Almost got
No,
Yeah.
it was nice. It was good to see, especially someone coming off an injury, an ACL injury. It's good to see. I know it's just one game, but he looked good. He looked healthy. He looked good. A little slow, and I say that very lightly because he should have scored on that long run.
no.
Yeah.
You can
But
tell.
still fast, but not as fast as he could have been.
Yeah,
And that's clear.
Absolutely.
But it's good to see. It's good to
No,
see.
it's great to
Although Dalvin Cook took most of the carries, what Brees Hall was given, he definitely proved this point that he is RB1 over there.
Yeah. He did more with what he was given. Brees had 10 carries, 127 yards on the ground, and added a catch for 20 yards as well in the screen game. Dalvin Cook, 13 carries for 33 yards, had 3 receptions also for 26 yards. I said, I believe 2 episodes ago, that I thought early season you would see Dalvin get a lot of the work, more of the work, and technically you did, right? Dalvin had 16 total touches compared to Brees Hall's 11. But Brees just did so much more with those touches, and it kind of eases your mind as a Brees Hall owner about how he was going to look coming back off that ACL, thinking that maybe you're holding him and he's going to be your league winner later on in the year. No, dude, he came out guns blazing immediately. Obviously, the better back compared to Dalvin Cook, and it showed yesterday.
Yeah, and but I mean, they got a tough Dallas defense next week, so. With the way things are, with the Aaron Rodgers injury, I don't know what's going to happen. It's all up in the air now,
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley didn't have too great of a game against Dallas's defense. And
nobody on the Giants had too great of a game.
The Giants didn't even show up.
Yeah, no.
They weren't even in the stadium.
If you didn't watch the game and you saw the score, then yes, they did not show up.
Yeah, precisely.
It's like they were never there.
Never.
But I feel like the most obvious thing you need to talk about when addressing the Aaron Rodgers injury is Garrett Wilson, how it affects him, where you drafted him compared to the production you're going to see now throughout the rest of the season. 5 catches for 34 yards, was able to haul in a touchdown on a ridiculous grab, probably already a catch of the year candidate on Tre'Davious White, who's one of the top corners in the league. Obviously, he was drafted end of the first, beginning of the second, and you're not going to get that production now with Zach Wilson as his quarterback compared to Aaron Rodgers. I think it's time to temper the expectations a little bit and understand that you might have drafted him as a wide receiver 1, but he's firmly back in that wide receiver 2 high flex play category, in my opinion. Definitely a wide receiver 2 lock-it-in guy, but his production is obviously going to take a crazy hit this season because of the Aaron Rodgers injury. So just temper your expectations when it comes to Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, it's rough, especially where he was going in most drafts because of where Aaron Rodgers was doing and the game plan that the Jets came up for him in the offseason. It's very sad, but unfortunately, it's a part of football. Unfortunately, it is what it is. You can't cry over the spilt milk now. If you're a Garrett Wilson fan, you just got to figure out where you're going to go from here. What's going to be the appropriate move? Who's going to be placed there if you don't trust him anymore? With Zach Wilson there, it depends. Zach Wilson threw him a pass, and Wilson made the touchdown.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson did not throw him an appropriate ball, but he made it happen. Are we going to hope for that every week? Especially like Bruce said, coming with Dallas, a really good defense. They put up a decent amount of points. I think fantasy wise, they were top 3, top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta give it to him though, because he was 5 for 5 with 34 yards and a TD, and that gave him 14 points. So it's just, I don't know. He might be the only option.
Yeah, he's still in the passing game. He's still the only option. Obviously,
Right.
they're going to get the backs involved a lot now too with the passing game because it's Zach Wilson, and they're going to try to neuter that offense as much as they can to limit Zach's mistakes. So the running backs get a bump in what you can expect from a reception standpoint. Obviously PPR formats, they get a bump, but the Garrett Wilson thing, I mean, it's just a killer compared from where you were drafting him to what you can expect from him now. It's going to be tough to try to navigate that because you spent such high draft capital on him.
Very, very tough. Who else do we have out there? Injuries and fantasy that's gonna put a hinder to your plan.
I think right now an immediate one that I'm looking at is Aaron Jones because he had such a strong game against the Chicago Bears week 1. And if this hamstring thing lingers, which we know hamstrings tend to do, AJ Dillon gets a dramatic bump in all formats, and you can expect him to get some real work in Green Bay behind Jordan Love. Jordan Love looked pretty good, by the way, for the Packers against the Bears, but they're going to want to protect Jordan Love, run the ball, get that going, so it makes the passing game easier. And I think that injury to Aaron Jones changes their offense entirely and the way they're going to operate. So I would bump up AJ Dillon when you're looking at the injury landscape.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones, huge. He went as a RB1 for week 1.
Yeah,
so it's very big. If he's hurt, if he's even missing a little bit of time, and he's going to start splitting more carries, it's very huge, very huge. And speaking of RBs, RB2, Austin Eckler, I know it's that he's missing a practice. It may just be a rest day for him, but it's something to look at as well. It's a lot of these injuries. Unfortunately, they happen, and it sucks to see, but in the fantasy aspect, you have to be prepared. That's why we're drafting. You have to be very attentive to the end of the draft and which handcuffs you're taking or the sleeper picks you're taking. These things they're very important because when you don't know, it could be 4 plays in and someone gets hurt. It could be a couple downs in or towards the end of the game and someone also gets hurt. Speaking about Dobbins, it's tough.
Right.
It's rough, and you just got to prepare. That's what this fantasy football is about. It's not just all about those easy first few round picks that you make. It's about these last picks that you make. And speaking about picks that we're making, waiver wires win championships in fantasy football.
They do.
So we have to pay attention to the waiver wires. What are some waiver wire priorities that we're looking at?
I mean, for me right now, I was actually looking at Shaheed. What is it? Rashid Shaheed.
You can do it.
Rashid Shaheed. There's a lot of
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Like Lamar classes over here. Rashid Shaheed. He basically took over, man. He basically took over the game. He was 5 for 6 on carries, so he had 89 yards, 1 touchdown. I'm sorry, 5 for 6 on receptions with 89 yards, 1 touchdown, and on 2 rushes he only had 11 yards, but he got the TDs when it mattered. So it was really big. And then there was actually a clip that they posted where Derek Carr said, "Hey, give me one more shot."
Right.
He told him, "Hey, run." He said, "Just run." And that was the big play that he got towards the end of the game there. That I think that was the winning drive, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah. So obviously he's gonna be there until Kamara gets back. I just feel like once Kamara gets back, that offense, I mean, he's still gonna be viable. Might be going back to Mark Ingram days, Kamara, Mark Ingram days. But I think right now you need somebody. Grab this guy. He's viable for you. I mean,
no, it's a good pickup, and let me tell you something about Derek Carr. He was spreading the ball, and he knows what he likes, and he was getting the ball to who he felt was making the plays for him, and it was Rashid Shaheed. That's who was making everything happen for him, and if you're able to, and you need, or if you got, like, for example, you're lower on the waiver wires because there's going to be some other players, especially receivers, that are out there that are going to be picked up first, I believe. But if you're a little lower on the waiver wires, this is a guy to look at. It's a guy to look at. It's a guy that you may be able to stash. Or if you're dealing with injuries, whether it be Cooper Kupp, whether somebody else is, for example, Deontay Johnson, it's someone to look at deeper in the waiver wires.
Yeah, for me, I like Rashid Shaheed, by the way. That is a tricky name to say. My waiver wire edition. It's an annoying name to say, that's for sure. So much he.
Yeah.
Puka Nakua is going to be my waiver wire ad. He had 10 catches for 119 yards in his debut with the Los Angeles Rams, totaling for 21.9 PPR points in full PPR formats. He played the Cooper Kupp role, man. Essentially, he had 15 targets in his debut, a rookie that we knew nothing about. We heard the training camp buzz. We knew that he was a legit talent. If you watched Zach Wilson at BYU, you also saw some of him at BYU. And he just immediately stepped in and was the alpha in that offense. Tutu Atwell had a good game too. I believe 6 catches, 119 yards. They both put up 119. But Puka got the looks, 15 targets, 10 catches, played that Cooper Kupp role. Obviously, that's going to go away when Cooper Kupp comes back. But I think this is a wave that you can ride until Cooper Kupp's return. And Puka is going to give you good return on investment for where you got him, which was essentially free off the waiver wire.
Yeah. No, it's definitely huge, and it's a big name. I think he's the number one name right now. If you're up there on the waiver wires, you got one of those first 3 waiver wire picks this week. Someone to look at. Either you need him on your team, or you want to keep him away from somebody. Whatever you want to do, whatever's your logic and your strategy, it's definitely something to look at because he played a great game. All this rumors that we were hearing about Matthew Stafford on the offseason, he wasn't connecting with the young guys. He wasn't getting BS. Yeah. This guy, he still looks good. He was slinging the ball out there, and he was making sure that everybody was involved, and it was a good look. And he's up there, man. He was, let's see here, number 9, top 10 receiver this week in PPR leagues.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy for somebody that nobody, and I believe, let's see here, he's rostered in only about 4% of leagues on average. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's unreal. So let's just say this. He's available in your league. More than likely, definitely. He's available in your league.
Yeah.
If you need a receiver, if your strategy is to keep the receiver away from somebody, this is the guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be well looked after, and everybody's going to want him.
Yeah, and that's the kind of guy that you want to spend a waiver wire pick on, because Matthew Stafford, when he has a favorite, he hones in on them. So even when Cooper Kupp comes back, like I said, that role is obviously going to be diminished, but I'm willing to spend a waiver wire pick on him, essentially, and see where that leads us when Cooper Kupp comes back. Is he still somewhat effective? Can he still get me 10 to 12 if I need him on a flex play? Because right now, the numbers that he just put up, I mean, he's a lock for flex play until Cooper Kupp comes back. But once we see those two work together with Matthew Stafford, I'm interested to see if he still has that type of value. And I think he does at the end of the day when Cooper Kupp is back.
Yeah, it's going to be weird to see because these hammy injuries are tough. Mm-hmm. So with the productivity that we're seeing out of these Rams receivers, Cooper Kupp may take a little bit extra time off because they're doing all right. Let the guy heal. For Cooper Kupp and the Rams, amazing. If you're a fantasy owner of Cooper Kupp, it really sucks to hear that.
Right.
But yeah, going on. I mean, those are great, excellent waiver wire pickups that I completely agree with. Shaheed. I say that right? Now I'm confused.
Yeah.
He's a good one. Puka's also a good one, but he's very obvious because he lit it up. He's on everybody's board. But it's definitely a good one to get his name out there. Shaheed, I like a lot. For me, it's maybe somebody that you may not think of too much, but for me, it's going to be Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly, 16 touches, over 90 yards and a touchdown. From a backup running back, from a handcuff. Austin Eckler was dealing with a minor ankle injury, I believe, at one point. But besides that, he was toting the ball with Eckler on the field. So also another player that's rostered in only about 4% of leagues. Yeah. If you need a running back, even if Eckler's still playing, this guy's going to more than likely get you a good amount of points in a PPR league. And if he's getting at least one touchdown, that's beautiful as well. The Chargers, I know it was a high-scoring game, as I projected that it would be between the Dolphins and the Chargers, not just in the sense of the point system, but in PPR, man. And I have to tip my hat to what Tyreek Hill did. If we're talking about PPR, if we're talking about fantasy football, I cannot look past the game that Tyreek Hill put. Oh, I don't remember his ADP. I don't remember where he was getting pushed from, but oh my God. What an
And
excellent
if
game.
and if you're
he's
talking about
hella-
Tyreek Hill, you got to talk about Tua too.
Right. No,
Tua
absolutely.
looked phenomenal.
They both looked great, and Tua was taken pretty late in most drafts, and Tyreek Hill not too late, but still, Jefferson was above him, Jamar Chase was above him, and some leagues. Other people they felt like they knew what they had, and they took Tyreek pretty early. But going back to Joshua Kelly, this is a good waiver wire pickup. 4% rostered in most leagues, which means he's what 96% chance that you can get him if you have a good waiver wire pick.
Yeah,
Another
he's
person
right.
that a lot of people are not really looking at because of Eckler being there and things of that nature. And there's other waiver wire priorities as well because J.K. Dobbins is out, so people are looking at Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. So people are not really thinking about Joshua Kelly. Good pickup, safe pickup in my opinion. We know what he can do. We know he's good. If Eckler misses even a little bit of time, this should be your guy. He's going to be RB1 over there, and they're putting up points. They're spreading the ball, and it's an easy decision for me there.
Yeah.
and another running back you could be on the lookout for, Kyron Williams. That's another one.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's
he had a
another
great game.
Yeah, he's
2 touchdowns,
showing.
right? I believe he had like 15 for 52.
2 touchdowns. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's looked like he's 7% rostered in Yahoo League. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad you actually mentioned Kyron because I feel like we kind of need to talk about Cam Akers. 22 carries for 29 yards. I mean, barely a yard per carry. That's just disgusting production out of his usage. If you told me Cam Akers was going to get 22 carries and I owned him in any league, I would have said, well, goddamn, how many points did he get? Was this a 20-point game, a 30-point game?
yeah,
It was an 8-point game because he snuck in on a touchdown. Kyron had 2. He got 1 at the goal line, but 22 carries for 29 yards is like insanely insufficient. So I'm really interested to see how they split up that backfield moving forward, especially with a tough matchup against the Niners coming up in week 2.
And another thing to point out about those two is that Kyron got the targets.
Yeah.
Right.
Akers didn't get any. So
Mhm.
something to look out for.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna run through these names real quick. Some of them are obvious, some of them are not, and this is why I honed in the beginning of the year to go 0 RB. Top 10 RBs week 1. Aaron Jones 1, from 1 to 10. Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Tyler Algier, Tony Pollard, Etienne, Bijan Robinson. He's supposed to be the number 1 guy. He was taken very early. He's sitting behind Tyler Algier there. Rashawn Johnson, Kyron Williams, and Nick Chubb. Those are your top 10.
Yeah.
3 to 4 out of those guys were probably taken towards the end of drafts.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good. There's a lot of good RBs out there. I mean, I also want to give Bijan his flowers. He looked good. He was making people miss, and it was nasty. He's gonna be a problem.
Man.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a committee back there too, it looks like. But
Tyler Algier had a great game.
They're both doing what they're gonna do. They're both doing what they're gonna do, and they're gonna do it well. So that's another person, Tyler Algier. I feel like
I'm not
Algier, sure how much he's rostered, but
yeah, I feel like Algier
He's
at this point is someone that you can give flex consideration to.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's definitely got to be rostered though.
Yeah, I mean, they were on the field at the same time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It's like a Chubb Hunt situation. Same thing with it's possibly going to happen with Kamara and Shaheed. It might happen. Like you might have that type of duo going on this year with those two teams. But don't disrespect my man like that, bro. Like that's my guy, all right? So relax.
I know.
So real quick, Kevin, if we're giving Bijan Robinson his flowers, what exactly can we give Drake London?
His tombstone.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean,
Drake London and whom else? T. Higgins?
Dude, T. Higgins but T. Higgins' donut is different from Drake London's because T. Higgins had 8 targets. T. Higgins got 8 targets. Very rarely do you get 8 looks from a great quarterback like Joe Burrow, who had a bad day, by the way. Jamar Chase had a bad day, by the way. Drake London, what was it? 1 target, 2 targets? Let's do
this. Let's do this. Waiver wire priorities. Rashid Shaheed, Joshua Kelly, and who was our third?
Puka Nacua.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Get those guys in your leagues. If you have any questions, you know where to reach us at on all our socials and everything.
Oh, and
Now-
another one, real quick, before you
Go ahead.
don't worry, we're gonna.
This
get
is what
to
we're
it.
here for.
But
We're here for the
last-
people. We
the
need to let them
last
go,
waiver,
Bruce.
the last waiver that we want to talk about, that I want to talk about, because I actually had him in a dynasty and I dropped him, and he
Lies.
did all right. Hunter Henry, don't
Mm.
sleep on him over there in the Patriots. If you're looking for a tight end, he's available in a lot of
16.6
leagues.
average.
Yeah.
Number one tight end week
He's
one.
checking down on the vet, man.
Oh yeah.
But
That's a
yeah,
good
man.
name.
So you were saying,
I mean, let's go over that real quickly. You know
No
what?
Hunter Henry.
It's a great segue. Let's talk about week one. Let's talk about week one recap. Let's talk about our fantasy leaders. And since we're on tight ends right now, let's go to tight ends. Hunter Henry, tight end 1 this week. Tight end 1, averaging 16.6 points in PPR leagues.
I saw that coming.
Approximately 11 points in standard. But you saw it coming?
No, not at all. Not at all. Give us the rest of the list.
I'm a Hunter Henry. I'm a Hunter Henry fan. Last year, I was a Hunter Henry fan. I picked him up on the waiver. I was a fan, but I did not see it coming.
yeah.
Number 2, Hayden Hurst. Number 3, Hawkinson. Okay, Hawkinson, a well-known name, probably taken a little early in some drafts.
Yeah.
Number 4, Donald Parham from the Chargers. And number 5, your boy Evan Ingram. I'll give you the top 5 there. Those top 5 people, obviously Kelsey didn't play. But who was our number 2? Mark Andrews. He didn't play either, right?
Yep.
So it's a dangerous game, tight end, man. It's scary. It's scary, and a lot of people stream tight ends, and it's going to be tough to stream tight ends if everybody's looking for that number 1 guy. And if Hunter Henry produces, who do they have next week? Do they play the Dolphins next week?
The New England
I think they have the
Patriots. I'm
Dolphins
not
next week.
sure. Mm.
Yeah, I think they have the Dolphins. Oh, yeah, Sunday night. I think they have the Dolphins
Okay.
next week. So there's a good challenge. That defense with Vic Fangio's looking pretty solid. They gave Herbert a good run, even though he did get his fantasy points out there for his players. They gave him a good run. But what do you feel about these tight ends? Are you worried about if you took some guys earlier? For instance, Kelsey when he's coming back, Mark Andrews, or any guys that you took earlier? Because these names are not names that went very early regarding tight ends.
I'm looking at it right now, and 10 of these, out of 10 of the top tight end performances this week, there's only 4 rostered.
Really?
There's only 4 rostered in our league.
Okay.
There's only four rostered. But if you look, Hunter Henry, 18% rostered. Hayden Hurst, 12% rostered. Donald Parham, 0% rostered. He had 11 points. He's not even rostered on anybody's league. Blake Bell, 0. I mean, obviously with Kelsey, that one's probably just a once in a blue type deal. We get that one. But like Harrison Bryant, 0% rostered. Adam Trotman, 0% rostered.
No, I'm glad we're talking about tight ends because it's difficult.
Yeah.
And a lot of people they don't draft the backup tight end. A lot of people don't do it.
Yeah.
You're steady. If you don't find a guy, you're streaming. So this is very important. Hunter Henry is probably not rostered or very low rostered in most
18%,
leagues and in
18%
most
rostered in
websites.
Yeah.
18%. I mean, come on, man. I mean,
And even the guys who drafted the guys, you're streaming right now too. Because if you have Travis Kelsey, you're streaming a tight end. If you have Mark Andrews, you're streaming a tight end. If you have Kyle Pitts, if you drafted Kyle Pitts, you might as well be streaming a tight end. If you took Dallas Goedert, you're looking at that donut and going, "What the?" Like, it's a funky week 1 as far as all the donuts. Dallas Goedert, that might not happen again, obviously. But this was a year where a lot of people were like, you know what? I'm tired of streaming tight ends. Let me go get one of the top guys. And I mean, where the hell are they? Like some of them are injured. Some of them are underperforming. It's such an ugly position. And that's why I think most people don't value it early in drafts.
It's nuts, dude. Looking at it.
It's an excellent point. And I'm glad we started with tight ends because they're very overlooked, but same thing. These guys can win you leagues if you got the right guy. And it's usually Kelsey, right? It's usually Kelsey.
Yeah, of course.
Until he comes back, people need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And until they figure it out, it gets kind of scary. It gets kind of scary because, for instance, I'll bring up my team very quickly. 1 or 2 players on my team put double digits up. That's it. And these are not just no names. I've had Burrow on my team. Deontay Johnson's not a huge name, but he's still somewhat of the receiver 1 in Pittsburgh. It can get scary. Now, saying it's going to get scary, do not panic. It's just week one. Hopefully things can progress. Don't panic too much. So speaking about the tight ends and getting out that way is very important. Now let's talk about the big dogs, the guys that are supposed to be putting up points in your league. These guys are supposed to be putting up the most points in your league. QBs. They're supposed to be up there. They're supposed to promise you what? Sometime 20 points, 19 points. It's supposed to be promised.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bruce, what are some names that
not roster?
No. Drafted high.
But drafted high that underperformed.
They made a lot of us cry.
No, I mean, well, I didn't take Daniel Jones high, so I take that one. But you got to say Patrick Mahomes this week. No Kelsey. He was one of the on the lower end of
lower from where he usually is, right?
Yeah, lower from where he usually is.
He averaged in 20 points roughly, but we usually look for big games from him. He was ranked as QB 7.
And I'm not sure where Anthony Richardson went. I think he went in later, right? But I know Deshaun Watson people were taken early. I mean, he did put up good points, but he missed the top 5. He's just outside the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, not your typical week from Joe Burrow, who just looked like a shell of himself out there. Maybe it has something to do with the calf strain. Maybe it has something to do with making so much money that he just doesn't care, right?
Let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about that. These boys that got paid and their pockets are heavy. Their pockets are heavy. They're limping.
Yeah, Joe Burrow. Yeah,
they got the pimp walk.
First overall pick, Bryce Young outperformed Lamar Jackson this week in fantasy. I mean, Justin Fields, you were counting on something with the legs. You didn't get much. I believe you got about 10.42 fantasy points from Justin Fields, if I remember correctly. The quarterback market, also a rough week. I mean, Tua came out and just dominated the QB1 spot, I'm sure. 28 points, absolutely cooking, 466 yards, provided wide receiver 1 this week in fantasy. So even the QB landscape this week was just an ugly one.
Let me say this. Obviously, I'm a well-known Jets fan. I have a tad hatred towards the Dolphins. Tua looked incredible, but he also looked incredible at the start of last year as well. I know injuries played into that and stuff played into that, so be careful putting all the eggs in the one basket. But as of right now, there's no overlooking it. It wasn't. He had a little bit of underthrown passes. There was one pass he did to Tyreek.
I was about to say, you better miss that.
Beautiful.
The bread
even as a Jet fan, man, it was a beautiful. I even looked at it like,
right in the bread.
The only word that came out of my mouth was how. it was beautiful, right in the bread basket. But most of the other ones, it was Tyreek down there somewhere, and he's gonna catch it.
Yeah.
And
man, come on, man. Tyreek was just unguardable though, bro.
He was
exactly. So it wasn't much to it. It wasn't much to it in that fact that he was just open. He was open. He's gonna get the ball to him.
Nuts.
But I mean, listen, I'm not taking away anything from Tua. That pass, I literally my jaw dropped and I said, How did he make that pass? How did Tyreek Hill? It looked like it went through the defender, like through him.
Yeah, no, man, that's what I'm saying. Like the bread basket.
It looked like something out of a Madden game. I was like, how?
Dropped it right in the bread basket.
Tua gets his flowers. Excellent play. I have him. Listen, I'm a Jet fan. I have him in one of my leagues. I didn't start him because I was a little bit of hating. But I started Kirk Cousins. But hey, it is what it is. Anyways, Tua, number 1 QB this week. Number 2. If you know, don't say it. But can you guess who number 2 is?
Yeah, I do.
I
know. I'm looking at it.
Okay,
you're looking at it.
Yeah, try to guess it.
I want to take a guess. I'm gonna take a guess because I actually don't know it. I want to say Anthony Richardson.
Close.
No. Yeah, close. But no.
Mac Jones.
Oh my gosh.
So listen, QB1 and QB2 are playing each other next week, so that should be fun. Mac Jones, hilarious. Not very far from Tua with 25 points. 25 points.
Gosh.
Over 300 yards. 35 for 54.
Yeah.
He's making stuff happen because he has to make stuff happen. Let's be real. It's not like the Tua situation. Tua was playing an excellent game. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He has excellent receivers out there. It's a little different. He had to push it down the field, so that's something to look at. Mac Jones, another person that's probably not rostered. I'll be safe to say that he's probably not rostered in most leagues. But going on, Jordan Love, number 3, another name that some people said, I knew it. I knew he was going to play this good. Other people, no.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson, number 4, a rookie. A rookie
yeah.
up there as a top QB for week 1. And number 5, I'm thinking of Deshaun Watson on his fines.
Oh.
Number 5, Deshaun Watson. He's up there. Right under him, notable mention, Justin Herbert, because that game was a fun game to watch. I'm not going to lie. The Chargers Miami game was a fun game to watch. But, hey, number 1, Tua. We kind of knew that he was going to come out like this because of the high-power offense, but nobody had him at where he was going to have him. And just like you said, we got to think of people like Burrow went probably pretty early in some leagues.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe QB3, maybe QB4 off the board, maybe behind Lamar. 3 points. That is crazy. 3 points.
I would not expect that again, but the matchup does remain tough next week with the Baltimore Ravens, who may get Marlon Humphrey, their top cornerback. So their top cornerback back. I guess you should say it like that, right?
Did I mention that he played the entire game? In 3 points?
I think so. Yeah.
The entire game. Aaron Rodgers played four snaps and had 0 points. He only scored 3 more points than that.
Bro, and Jordan Love. Let's not forget Jordan Love, because Jordan Love had a good game.
Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Give Jordan Love some love, Bruce.
I mean, he's doing his thing. I mean, he's only 33% rostered in Yahoo League, so that's something to look forward to. He might be a good pickup. He actually has, it's all about sustainability also, right? So it's like this could change next week. Joe Burrow comes back into action, and it's just don't want people to panic off a week 1 performance,
right?
But you also want to keep an eye on some of these guys, because if they're available in your league, you might want to stash them. You might, like, for instance, for me, I have Daniel Jones. I might give him another run next week, but then after that, I'm starting to say, hey, man, I'm trying to at least sneak into the playoffs. I'm trying to at least get in the playoffs. Like,
favorable matchup against Arizona. We'll see.
Very favorable matchup. But just like Bruce just mentioned, don't panic. Don't panic too much. Let's see where these guys go from here. Week 1, everybody's getting their sea legs back. Everybody's understanding. Some people, maybe their pockets are too heavy, like Daniel Jones and Burrow, and other people, they're just getting back into the game. They're feeling, and I think, speaking about starts that started similar, like Tua last year started very heavy. I know his situation was injury related, but Burrow, I believe he started slow last year too.
Yeah.
And then he went to going up hot. And Josh Allen's a number name, QB 20, when he should be up there as one of the top, not just QB fantasy players. And he's going 20. I know he went against a tough Jets defense, and his favorite player on his team was Whitehead from the other team. But listen, these are players. Don't panic. Don't say, "Oh, I'm going to start this guy over this guy because he did terrible the first week." Give them their chance. If it continues to fail you, we'll talk about it right here on the RDL podcast, and we'll let you know what's the best pick. That's why we're going through our top week 1 players. Speaking of top week 1 players, let's head over to our RBs. We kind of mentioned it earlier. Aaron Jones at number 1. Aaron Jones had a good game. We're dealing with a little bit of injury, if I'm right on that, Trav.
Yeah, but, dealing with the hamstring.
So Aaron Jones, number 1 last week, Trav. How are we feeling week 2 with Aaron Jones? Are we scared a little bit? Do we still play him? How are we feeling?
I think you watch it throughout the week. Obviously, the hamstrings are very tricky. It could cause him to miss a week or 2, or he can be right back and feel like nothing happened. It was just a quick little catch. If he plays, you're obviously starting him, especially after that performance last week.
Yeah.
They get Atlanta, which, we'll still see. It's favorable. It's still early. I feel like it's still too early to tell what's favorable and what's not yet. But I would say if you have Aaron Jones and he's starting, he's healthy, you play him. You don't question it. Same way with the guys like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow that we talked about struggling. You drafted them for a reason. You're going to play them, So Aaron Jones, if he's good to go against Atlanta, run him out there for your fantasy team. And if he's not, if A.J. Dillon's out there or you handcuffed him with A.J. Dillon, you play him immediately too, because at that point, he's going to get all the volume in that backfield.
Okay. And Bruce, as a Bijan owner, How we feeling there? We're
I'm
okay
feeling-
because of the performance he put up week 1, or are we feeling a little bit iffy because we're splitting some carries in a RB committee?
No, not at all. Because if I could compare the two,
I think they're
I
pretty
mean,
close.
they're pretty close. But I feel like Bijan is gonna make the most out of his touches. You know, we seen the play. Everybody saw the play. This is
Right.
not like the kid is cutting, he's moving, he's breaking tackles. I don't have a fear. I mean, we knew Algier is good. They got him. They got 2 good running backs back there. Algier outperformed this week, and that's fine. They don't want to. Maybe they don't want to run this kid into the ground yet. And
That's
that's
Yeah.
something that they're holding back.
That's
If he's balling, hey, I don't have to put him in the game. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And let's be very clear. Algier did outrank or outscore Bijan, but just by 4
Mhm.
points. It's not like it was substantial. It wasn't anything crazy. Now, Bijan's love came from a few plays rather than Algier's productivity and carries, correct? But still, same thing. If let's go to another committee that we saw that we thought was going to be a little different.
So
We
real
saw.
quick though,
Go ahead.
yeah, the Bijan's production is coming off catches,
Right.
where Algiers is coming off rushes.
Right.
So
Right.
there's
And it depends. If we like to talk a lot of PPR here because that's where most leagues are at nowadays. But it's things to consider. If you're in a standard or a PPR league or even a half PPR league, I put PPR and half PPR in the same vote. Unless you're in a standard league, it's definitely something to look at. And they weren't far off to have 2 RBs in an RB committee or in a handcuff, whatever you want to call it, both in the top 10. That's good for your fantasy team if you have
Yeah.
either one of those, or if you were like one of those guys that are saying, I'm going to handcuff Bijan because I'm not sure if he's going to be all that they said he's going to be.
Yeah.
So it's very good to look at. Like I was saying, going back to those committees, something we weren't expecting because Dalvin Cook had more of the carries and more percentage there. Brees Hall came out, but on his plays that even though he had less carries, he produced, he broke for long runs. And that's another thing. And I'll leave this to you, Trav, as another Jet fan in here. How are we
Yeah.
feeling about that?
A Brees Hall stand
Brees Hall.
is what you could call me. When we talk about Brees Hall, just say, I'll send it over to the Brees Hall stand.
Before you start,
Look-
Brees Hall, RB 11, 15.7 points.
Yeah, 10 carries,
PPR.
127 yards, the 1 catch for 20 yards. Look, he picked up right where he left off last year,
Yeah.
right? He was on an unbelievable trajectory last year. This is much faster than anticipated, especially coming off the ACL. First game back, to see him cutting the way he was cutting in the backfield off that ACL, off that knee that he had the surgery on. I mean, it's inspiring when you're looking at a guy that, depending on where you drafted him. In some drafts, he was taken in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. Hell, I was in one where he was taken as late as the 7th round. So at this point, it doesn't matter where you took him because he's already producing like that 3rd round talent that you might have drafted him in. So as far as which back you want in this backfield, I think yesterday kind of made it clear you want Brees. Now, let's pay attention to how his knee reacts to a bigger workload than anticipated. Is it going to be a lot of swelling, some pain? They're going against a really tough defense against Dallas. Do they decide, hey, we kind of unleashed you week 1 because we really needed it? Let's temper that a little bit into week 2, give Dalvin more touches. But as a Brees owner, you can't be any happier with that performance. I mean, truthfully. And then Dalvin Cook out carrying him, like we said, but insanely inefficient. 13 carries, 33 yards. I believe he had the 3 catches for 26 yards as well. So more receptions, but he also was in there more. So it makes sense. But I think clearly the one that you want moving forward is Brees Hall. And you use Dalvin as kind of a flex play. I think he's out of RB2 consideration right now. Keep him as a flex play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And ironically, Dalvin Cook RB 33 this week with 8.9 points. Sitting
Real
behind
quick.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, real quick. I just want to say, compared to where you drafted Dalvin Cook and the expectations you had for him in the Jets offense, and then going back to a backfield we were just talking about with Atlanta, where you might have drafted Tyler Algier. I mean, at this point, I'm heavily considering Tyler Algier over Dalvin Cook. If I need a spot start flex play, if I just lost J.K. Dobbins and I have Tyler Algier on my bench, I'm throwing him in there. And I'm considering Algier over Dalvin Cook in a league. I think it makes sense. 15 carries for 75 yards, 2 touchdowns from Algier. him and Bijan Robinson getting a total of 25 carries. They want to run the ball in Atlanta, so much so that it's going to make you pull your hair out of your head if you own Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think that using
Tell us how
those,
you really feel.
yeah, I mean, thank God I don't own any of them because I saw that coming. Like Arthur Smith is, I want to run my dudes into the ground. I'm surprised he's taking care of Bijan as much as he did in week 1, but easily considering a guy like Tyler Algier, who I drafted as RB5 or RB6 in leagues, over a guy like Dalvin Cook, who you might have taken as RB3, RB4. So as far as the Jets backfield, you want Brees. Atlanta, I think they're both playable in my opinion.
Okay. Before we move on to the next
I was just gonna
position,
real quick. I was just gonna say,
go ahead.
Algier 50% rostered in Yahoo leagues. So
All right, so let's be clear. Let's take a step back. Pay attention to your waiver wires.
Yeah.
Watch this show. It's important. So far, I know it's very early. So far, we've been on point. We've been pretty good, man.
Yeah.
And if I could say,
pretty on point.
Dalvin Cook is 95% rostered. So Algier's out there. Like you could go grab him. Go grab him.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go as far as dropping Dalvin Cook.
No.
But I would.
No. I didn't say drop him. I just said that.
No. I'm just saying.
Let's be clear. If you're new to fantasy football and you're watching our show, I know a lot of viewers have even reached out to me on DMs and things like that, saying, "Hey, you actually won me week 1 with some of the suggestions that Bruce or Trav or yourself has made," and that's good to hear. So, number 1, thank you for watching. Number 2, come on, man. We know what we're doing. I know we're lower level right now because we ain't got no sponsors or anything like that, but we know what we're doing, and we'll get there. We're going to continue doing this because we love doing it. Let's start there. We love doing it. We enjoy doing it. It's a good time. But before we leave the RBs, some names that I want to mention that you want to be careful with. Not saying to panic, just be careful. The Montgomery and
Jahmyr
Gibbs backfield. Just be careful with Montgomery. Got a lot of love. Not saying Gibbs ain't it. Just got a lot of love. Be careful with obviously the backfield in Philly. Kenneth Gainwell was who the Phillies said they were going to use him as, or using him as. Another one, be careful. He's another high waiver wire pickup that a lot of websites and things are speaking of this week. Yeah. We're not speaking about him here because we're trying to give you the real nitty gritty. We're not just throwing names out there. All right.
Yeah, we know.
Be careful with these. Some of these committees worked for us this week. Just be careful. James Cook sat there at RB 27, but he was getting tons of looks.
Yeah, he
got tons of looks. Annoying amount of looks. I was like, yeah, come on.
It felt like it's weird because when you look at his stats, it doesn't look like he did much.
Right,
but every touch he got when you were watching the game, you were like, damn, can someone get him on the ground? Like he was just moving, picking up extra yardage.
And I want to say this before we get off the RBs. I promise we're done with the RBs. We're going to move on to our receivers. I mentioned as an actor for week 1, Jamal Williams. Be careful. I know he's the big guy in town because he's the only RB pretty much there. RB 38 with only 7 points. Once again, be careful. Just because they're the only player on that backfield that's going to get the carries doesn't mean they're going to produce. Pay attention to matchups. As we told you, the Titans it was a bad matchup for running games there. Yeah. And it clearly showed. So enough of the RBs. I mean, it's clear as day who receiver 1 was. But hey, his flowers have to be given to him. He scored 44.5 points in PPR leagues. Yes, Mr. Cheetah, or how he wants to be called now because he's unguardable, the Lion.
Oh, yeah.
Tyreek Hill scored 44 points. I think I put up 63 points with my entire team in week 1.
And he scored 44.
A third of it.
Unreal. Yeah.
A third of it.
Crazy.
How we feeling about that, Trav?
I mean, what was it? It was 11 catches, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Jeez, man.
Was that it? Was everything that I just said right? Was everything that I just said 100% correct?
Say it again.
11 catches, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Okay.
On the nose.
So
projected. Let's just
think we feel
before
about
you
that?
Continue going. Projected for 98 yards and only half a touchdown next week.
Oh, I thought he was projected for 98 fantasy points. I must have misread. Like his production is through the freaking roof, man. 11 catches, 215 yards off 11 catches and 2 touchdowns. It's obvious that Tua has his guy. He trusts Tyreek Hill to be his wide receiver 1.
Right.
Tyreek is unguardable. I saw a tweet. I can't remember who said it, so forgive me. But they said, I don't know how to explain it, but Tyreek Hill is more unstoppable than Justin Jefferson, even though Justin Jefferson's a better receiver. And I felt like that's the perfect way to sum it up. Like, you can't chase Tyreek around all game for 60 minutes. It's just impossible.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league.
Yeah. No,
I
would.
Who can argue it? Who can
I
argue
would
the best receiver in the
argue. I
league?
would agree.
And it's undebatable.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people went before him in fantasy aspects because you said all around, we may look at other players such as Jefferson or Jamar Chase.
Right.
But when you have the speed of this man and the arm that Tua's producing and proving to all the haters, I was one of them, proving to all the haters that he can do it. This team is scary, and in a fantasy aspect, those two are scary. Speaking about those two being scary, and I'll let you continue, Trav. Bruce, how do you feel about Jalen Waddle, who was drafted pretty high, only hauling in 4 passes during week 1?
Well, that's got a lot to do with my man right here, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
That it's
Are we concerned, or are we okay with his 5 targets for 78 yards, or are we concerned?
I wouldn't be concerned. Because Jalen Waddle. All right. So this is what I like about both receivers, right? And then another thing I want to just say, we could argue, it's debatable that if Tua would have finished the year, Tyreek might have been going over the other two.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. A lot of people don't think about.
Then the other thing is they're 2 different quarterbacks. So wide receivers. So Tyreek is a deep ball guy, deep ball threat. Usually he's open and he's gone, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle makes things happen.
Yeah.
He catches that ball and he's getting yards after the catch.
Mhm.
Like he's fast and he's swift. So I wouldn't worry. I think he's still a good, wide receiver 2 flex play. Like that's how I feel.
Okay.
Did he get outperformed this week? 100%.
He got outperformed quite substantially, and even by a player on his own team, River Crawcraft.
Yeah,
I don't know who that is. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm reading this off of paper. I'm not going to BS you guys. I'm not going to sit here and say, I knew this guy and he was going to be amazing. I don't know who this guy is.
I'm not going to lie. I was trying to figure out his name throughout the game. I'm like, what's the name?
So I'm going to keep it real with you. He outperformed him. He's on the same team. And that's why the only say I'm like, are we a little concerned, or did we just get a high power, high scoring offense? And I agree with you, Bruce. I don't think there's anything to be concerned with this Dolphins offense. I think it's going to be full of fantasy value throughout the year. They do have some pretty tough matchups. Once again, I'm not being biased, but the Jets have a top 5 defense right now. So they play them twice towards the end of the year. They play some other teams. They play the same teams the Jets play as well. And they have some pretty tough defenses coming up. But let me say this. We're going to go over next week in our next show. We're going to give you 2 shows this week to step up the value. So we'll go a little bit over there, but going against New England, I don't believe Tua's ever lost to New England. So it's something to look at. And when you're picking players, let's go back to the receivers. We'll talk more about next week in a few days. Go ahead.
Yeah. Real quick, just to touch on the Jalen Waddle situation. So I don't think you panic about 4 catches for 78 yards. It's 11.8. That's good. That's good for.
But it was a high scoring game. They were going back and forth. We're not going to see that every
thing.
week.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we're in a game where Tua throws for 466 yards. I want to see Jalen Waddle be a little more of a part of that. But also, I think we're underestimating just how bad the Chargers defense is, to the point where it never made Tua have to look away from Tyreek Hill. It was just like, dude, my guy's open all game. I'm hitting him all game. It is what it is. Now,
my guys open.
Yeah, exactly. So now be ready for Jalen Waddle to have more than 11 points against a New England defense coached by the greatest defensive coach of all time. That's going to make Tua second guess throwing that ball to Tyreek Hill, because he's going to show him more attention. So I think this week you'll see a step up in Jalen Waddle's production, or or I could be completely wrong and an idiot, which, might happen sometimes. But I do think that this matchup for Jalen Waddle, even though it's against a better defense and a better secondary, is a bit more favorable because now there's a defensive coordinator that knows how to actually take away your top priority on offense.
That's an excellent point. Go ahead.
Just to touch back on that, I mean, he spread the ball. He also did spread the ball. It's just the Tyreek. So that's how open they were because even Berrios was getting touches.
Yeah, I mean,
yep, Honey Nut.
Is that New York Jet legend Braxton Berrios?
Hey,
right. And he was even getting touches. So it was
I love my Canes. I don't care if they play for the Dolphins. I love my Canes.
But they were open. So I feel like, that talks that, that touches on the lack of defense. It's just that Tyreek Hill, dude.
No, that's a great point. I want to get through the rest of these top. Let's go with the top 10 receivers real quick. And give me, when I say these names, Bruce and Trav, give me one of these names that stand out to you that we probably haven't spoke about yet. Tell us how you feel. Tell us if they're going to continue producing or if it was just a 1 week fluke. Number 2, Brandon Ayuk. Number 3, Jacoby Myers. Number 4, Stephon Diggs. Number 5, Kendrick Bourne. Number 6, our guy that we talked about all last week, Calvin Ridley. Number 7, Justin Jefferson. Number 8, Mr. Pittman. 9, Puka. 10, Olave. Trav, what name stands out to you there that we haven't spoke about yet?
We haven't shown enough love to Brandon Ayuk, even though I think there was an episode at some point where I said he's the one you want. Like, I'm not touching Deebo Samuel.
You did say that. Yep.
In that San Francisco offense. Brandon Ayuk is the dude,
right
man.
here at RDL.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean? Brandon Ayuk is the guy over there in San Fran. I think that throughout this season, it's going to become more and more evident to the average watcher or someone that's just getting into fantasy football and saw Deebo's name higher on ADP than Brandon Ayuk's. Like, no, Ayuk is legit. Brock Purdy loves him. That's his favorite target.
Yeah.
They're still going to try to get Deebo involved, but I don't think 32.9 is a lot of points, but I don't necessarily think the attention that he got in that offense is going to be a fluke. You know what I mean? Like he saw
touchdowns,
some good
129
targets.
yards, 8 receptions.
Yeah. 8 catches on 8 targets, the 2 touchdowns, like you said, 129 yards. I don't think that stuff's a fluke. Deebo had, I mean, just looking at Deebo's stats is funny. 2 carries for 8 yards, 5 catches for 55 yards. He got 7 targets, so it was just 1 less than Ayuk, right? But Ayuk makes the most of it. You know what I mean? So I don't think that Ayuk's name is a fluke. Someone that I do think is a fluke. I'm not sure if one of you were going to touch on this, but Michael Pittman, he's known to have these boomer bust type weeks.
Good.
I see him firmly in that like Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett tier, where like he can give you 30 or he can give you 3.0 and it'll look like 30. But I think that
I'll run with that. That.
Yeah. Like
my guy is exactly Pittman.
Yeah.
Be a little concerned. Rookie quarterback, first start. He found Pittman. Is that always going to happen? I don't know. Richardson showed that he's a mini Cam Newton. Shows that he's going to tote it. Shows that he's going to be a little wild with it, even if it's productive or not productive. And week 1 ended up being productive for him, a top 10 QB. Be a little weary about this. Not saying he ain't going to produce for you 23 points. Maybe not every week. So just be very cautious. Don't start him because Pittman's a name that you probably are not going to start. Maybe he's in your flex. Don't throw him in front of another receiver just because Jamar Chase had a bad week. You know, Don't and I know that everybody, all of our listeners are not just rookie first time fantasy players, so you know this common knowledge. But for those that are not, and those that are looking for a show to guide them to win their championship this year, just be careful with Pittman. Who are you feeling about, Bruce, on that list?
Well, I want to talk about one that's probably going to probably surprised us, right? When you thought New England, who you thought was going to be the guy over there?
I would have thought Juju.
I would have thought Juju. 74% roster Juju. But who do we have up there? Bourne.
Kendrick Bourne.
Kendrick Bourne is the guy. 50%. What is he? Not even 4% rostered, bro.
We got to make one of those clips. Jesus
Christ. I mean, he saw a lot of love with Devontae Parker out, man.
A lot of love. And then it's just like, that's crazy. Like that. So that one right there surprised me. Is it going to be sustainable? I don't know, but
Yeah.
you see who's getting the targets in New England, and that's something that you want to keep an eye on.
6 receptions, 2 TDs, 64 yards. Not crazy. Those 2 TDs helps that score of 18.4 points. But like you said, we didn't expect him to be the guy. Yeah. And let's talk about this real quick, very quickly. I know they're going against a good defense. I'm not going to say a good defense, but an updated defense in Miami next week. But you had Kendrick Bourne, a receiver, 24 points, number 5, a receiver. Hunter Henry, number 1 tight end with 16 points. They were putting up points, and everybody threw New England to the bottom of the totem pole. It was guarded the AFC East, but they were putting up points. And
part of that was game script being down 16 zip so early. Right. They needed to throw the ball to get back into it.
Which probably next week is going to happen. If Tua's there out there slinging and Tyreek is out there lining it up or cheating up, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and they might be coming from behind. Notable mentions before we move on very quickly to our kickers and defensive. I know they're not very huge, but we're going to talk about every position here to give you the best value and to make you win week 2 of your fantasy. Let's talk about some names. I'm going to just throw these names out real quick on the receivers.
We're going to ignore this.
What
happened?
Everybody drafted Devontae Adams.
And Jacoby Myers just in there like,
yeah, I'll put up 29 points and be the
right. So
number 3 receiver this week.
It's an excellent segue because I was going to throw out some names of some big time receivers that are not in the number 1, at least for week 1. Devontae Adams ranking at 29, while Jacoby Myers is ranking at number 3.
That's crazy. Like that,
right?
That is crazy, though.
These are usually some big names, and if you hear the names, you're going to be like, oh my God, these players should produce. Either some of them are getting old, some of them are new teams, or some of them are just not getting the love. Devontae Adams, 29, 12.6 points. That's about an average that you want to see a receiver. But when we draft somebody like Devontae Adams, we want more points. DeAndre Hopkins, 13.5 points. A little above average from a aging receiver.
Yeah.
Receiver 26. But here's some names that we projected, or most people projected in fantasy outlets. DK Metcalf was going pretty high, 13.7 points. Once again, you're okay with that if the rest of your team's doing solid, but you're predicting more. Let's talk about Zay Flowers, Zay Jones. The Zays put some love up there with 16, 17 points. They were kind of projected to hit that, and they were right about in their projections. Everybody else is kind of what we expected, right? Amon St. Brown, 19 points. Romeo in Green Bay, we didn't know what was going to look like with Jordan Love, but hey, he's still up there with 18.6 points.
Yeah. Not one, but 2 tutties.
Yeah, I plugged him in last minute in one league.
Exactly. And then other people that were being projected pretty high, just not showing up. Tyler Lockett, T. Higgins, even Tyler Boyd. These are some names that maybe are household names to some extent because they helped you last year. Just be careful this year, guys. It's a new year. These players are aging. It's a entirely new season. Make sure you're watching our podcast. That way you can go ahead and find the right person, right? And no matter who it is, listen, and this is for my dog Buddha, Elijah Moore outperformed Jamar Chase this week. So you never know, right?
Did you have any doubt?
Yeah, you have any doubt?
Substantial amount of doubt. Anything else we want to go on receivers before we head out?
Yeah, just one. This is just a quick one. If you're a CD Lamb owner, there's nothing to worry about. It was just that there was no reason to use him last week.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point with CD Lamb. Receiver number 32 this week. He was open. He was there.
He was cooking them. Like Tony Pollard was like, "Don't worry about it."
I'm very glad you brought that up. Some receivers not to worry about. The Philly
T. Higgins is in that category for me.
T. Higgins, just hold off. We'll keep you updated as much as we can. We'll try to update our socials if anything changes throughout the week, but we're going to give you 2 shows. We're going to try our best to give you 2 shows a week. So there's no issue. They're not like, hey, you didn't tell us what was going on. No, we're going to be here for you. Mm-hmm. So right before we head out, we'll go over these quickly. We won't spend too much time on them. our kickers. Our kickers. Sometimes kickers can give you good points. Jake Elliott and Nick Folk tied for the number one kicker at 18 points. I'm gonna give you the top five here. Jake Elliott and Nick Folk. Brett Maher. Excuse me. Jake Moody. Jason Sanders for the Dolphins and Tyler Bass for Buffalo. Those are your top five guys, giving you more than projected. Kickers are usually projected between 8 to 9 points. The good ones, restricted 8 to 9 points. Everybody else is going to be dwindling around 6 or 7 points. These guys gave you double digits, over 10 points, excellent options. Most of these guys are not available in most leagues. Most of these guys were getting drafted high at the end of your drafts. So the waiver wires for kickers, continue streaming, continue looking at who they're playing, continue looking at the defenses, if they're going to allow touchdowns or if they're going to allow field goals. These are very important when looking at kickers. Anything about the kickers you guys want to talk about?
I'll just say that when I look at a kicker and I'm thinking about which one I want to stream, because that's what you should be doing. You should be streaming them. You shouldn't be jumping in round 10 to take Justin Tucker or something like that. Stream your kickers, wait till the final 2 rounds. But find a kicker that week that's attached to an offense that just teases and never pleases. Like, they're going to get in the red zone, but they're not going to score a touchdown. And you'll get your 3 points on your field goals instead of the 1 for the extra point. Those are typically the kickers that you want.
Yeah, I took Jake Elliott on the second to last round.
Yeah,
or I might have taken him last round. He might have just been the last. Like, it was just Jake Elliott.
I'll tell you right now that this is just for fun and laughs and giggles before we head on to defenses and head out for tonight. Who was the only kicker who scored 0 points?
I want to go with Graham Gano from the Giants.
Yeah, well, he went negative.
That was a little all right. All right, moving on. Defenses, I'm going to give it a little time before we head out because, hey, some of these guys were drafted pretty late. Some of these guys, or let me not say guys, teams were drafted too high.
Yeah.
Number one on that list, a whopping average of 37 points. Sorry, Bruce, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to let you go over this one and tell me how you really feel.
Oh, Dallas, I had them last year. And then last year, they didn't disappoint. And I tell you the truth, if I wasn't just so adamant about not jumping for a defense, I would have got them this year as well. But I'm not.
But let the people know. Let the people know. Great defense, right? Dallas, excellent defense. 37 points is not normal. It's not going to happen every week. But, so for you guys that are like, oh, I got this guy going to save my league. Once again, 37 points. I'll bring it up again. They scored half of my league's points, half of my team's points in my big league, in the RDL league. Half of the points.
I'm just thinking of that. I'm just thinking about that MMA clip. The girl is like, yeah, it was a really good fight. It was a great time.
And she's all beat up.
I'll let you take the next one, Trav. Number 2, which I knew, the New York Jets. 20 points. Tell me how you feel about it.
Dominating defense. It always helps when you're going against a quarterback that just doesn't know how to get out of his own way. He plays every single snap like it's the fourth quarter of a game-winning Super Bowl drive. All he knows is balls to the wall, and 3 picks, all to Jordan Whitehead, like Kevin referenced earlier. The highest targeted player for Josh Allen, not named Stephon Diggs, was Jordan Whitehead. A bunch of sacks. I mean, that front four is ferocious. We know that already. They're going to have a tough one coming up against Dallas, but we thought that they would have a tough one coming up against Buffalo, so we'll see.
Yeah, that defense is really
We'll talk about a little about it next week.
Yeah,
but that's something to be careful with as well. 2 top, technically fantasy value-wise, the top 2 defenses are playing each other next week. If you have people on those offenses, be very careful. What were you going to say, Bruce?
No, nothing.
It's okay to cry.
The Jets defense is great, man. No, I'm enjoying watching the Jets defense. I think they're going to be one of the top 3 defenses this year. But I just keep thinking about that. I just keep thinking about Daniel Jones, man. He's got.
Listen, man. Let's run through this real quick. I'll give you the top 5. Actually, I'll give you. Yeah, let's go top 5. With defenses. Once again, you're going to be streaming defenses. We're going to give you what's the right defense to stream next week. What's the right kicker to stream next week? What's the right tight end to not next week, in a few days, actually. We're going to give you all that info. We're going to give you all this info. We're trying our best to get you as much content, as much clips, everything we can do. We'll try to do it for you, for RDL fans. Number 3, maybe not projected Arizona Cardinals with 19 points. Number 4, Green Bay Packers. Okay. San Francisco 49ers and the Eagles tied at number 5 with 13 points. Once again, for all our non-heavily played, and maybe you're in one league for the first time, fantasy teams, fantasy managers, stream your defenses. Unless you got the Cowboys or the Jets, everybody else should probably be streamed for the most part. The Cowboys and the Jets, you're probably going to hold on to. Don't drop them just because, hey, they got a tough matchup coming up. These are teams that you want to keep. Maybe if you have an extra spot on your roster, stash them if they have an unfavorable matchup that week. But pay attention to your defenses. Once again, very easy to lose a league, very easy to win a league with defenses. Going back to, sorry, Bruce.
Truth be told, what, the Dallas Cowboys? Truth be
negative
told,
1 points by the Giants defense this week.
Yeah.
0 points from 2 teams, which is the Chargers and the Bears. Go ahead.
So last year, I had Dallas's defense on the bye. I ended up getting Patriots defense.
Okay.
I did not let go of either one of those defenses because they were putting up 20 points through the whole season.
Right.
I refused. I refused to let the Patriots go because I didn't want anybody else to go.
It's something to watch. It's something to pay attention to. But guess what? You don't have to pay attention to it because we're going to do it for you right here in the RDL podcast. Fellas, anything else you want to speak about specifically before we head out for the night?
No, I think we covered a lot.
Week 2 is upon us.
Yeah,
week 2 is about that later this week.
We're gonna get you a show. We're gonna make it fun. We're gonna make it good. We're gonna give you exactly who we feel is gonna help you win week 2 in your league. Thank you for joining us, everybody. RDL podcast. It's Feebz. Got Bruce. Got Trav. Thank you.
Sir.
If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. Shout out to the crew and they get real. I'm here with the crew, nigga, real deal. You not on the team, boy, you on the bench. You not in my league, how I'm on your neck. Hey, I heard you working out, please don't hurt yourself. My pockets by the flex, your pockets gotta stretch. Okay, don't talk too much and Bruce go at your chest. I just told Pete to let it go, but he ain't got already set. And I bet he leave him frozen when they hear what Travis said. You ain't